Welcome to Proline TV here on this Thursday, April 17th. Kevin Rogers with you as we take a look at NHL first period trends and best bets for the final day of the regular season. As it's coming up tonight, unfortunately, no games have any playoff implications. Everything is wrapped up before the weekend when the playoffs begin, but still there's games in the schedule. We could find some good trends. So let's get right to the games tonight in the NHL, and let's go to the big sheet and begin with the Islanders and the Blue Jackets. Columbus thought they still had an outside shot at making the playoffs if Montreal would have lost last night in regulation. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case. The Canadiens beat the Hurricanes, so Columbus is eliminated. So now Columbus will play Game 82 tonight against the New York Islanders, and the Blue Jackets, a couple of their numbers from the first period, 19, 10, and 10 at home in the first period, but also 28 and 11 to the over. So they've been a strong over team so far this season in the opening period. The Islanders, not as much luck, 20 and 20. I mean, kind of just up and down as far as what they do on the road in the first period. So let's look at the Columbus Blue Jackets. And they've won 5 straight, so too little, too late for them, but they've been an incredible over team in the first period. When you look back at it since March 21st, they're on an 11-2 overrun in the first. It was 11-1 before Tuesday against Philadelphia. Scoreless first period kind of derailed that. They won that game 3-0, but still they've been a strong over team. And also when they played the Islanders back on March 24th on Long Island, they trailed 2-0 after one. Came back and won that game in the shootout 4-3. Now, taking a look at the Islanders, who just completely fell apart towards the end of the season, and they've not scored a goal in the first period in the past 4 games. In fact, dating back to March 26th, they have led one time in the first period, coincidentally, the game against Washington when Alex Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. But the Islanders have not been good in the first period of late. Also 3 consecutive unders for them in the opening period. So we'll see if the Islanders can break through against Columbus tonight in the finale. The next game we will look at, the Lightning and the Rangers from Madison Square Garden in Tampa Bay. They will play Florida in the first round. They are the 2 seed out of the Atlantic, so they will have home ice. And Tampa Bay actually just played the Rangers at the Garden on April 7th. And the Lightning were up 3-0 after one, won the game 5-1, just completely cruised by the Rangers in that game. And the Lightning just cruised past the Panthers on Tuesday, kind of a shorthanded Panthers team, 3-0 after the first, 5-1 was the final of that game. I can't imagine that Andrei Vasilevsky will play in net tonight for the Lightning, considering everything is wrapped up. And you see Tampa Bay, what they've done in the first period of late. They are 10-3 to the over in the first period, and they've scored a goal in 5 consecutive games in the opening period. Taking a look at the New York Rangers, and they have been one of the biggest disappointments in the league. They missed the playoffs after being in the Eastern Conference Final last year. The Rangers playing their home finale tonight off 3 consecutive overs on their road trip, and just looking to get a little revenge against Tampa Bay after that ugly loss back 10 days ago. So the Rangers there, they've allowed 3 goals in the first period in the past 2 games. They had that nice little outburst against the Islanders, but for the most part, they've had their struggles recently scoring in the first period. The Flyers and the Sabres, 2 teams have been out of it for a while. They meet this evening in Buffalo. And taking a look back at their season series, Philadelphia led Buffalo 2-0 after one back on November 16th, won that game 5-2. And then in the most recent meeting, another high-scoring first period, 2-1, Philadelphia led. They beat Buffalo 7-4, and now they make the trip to Buffalo tonight. 3 consecutive scoreless first periods for the Flyers. Also, they're on a 6-0 under run after a 5-0 overrun in the first period. So for the Flyers, a little more defensive in that opening period. And also, you go back now 6 games, they've scored 1 goal in the opening period. For the Buffalo Sabres, who had that little 13-game winless streak earlier in the season to kind of torpedo their year, Buffalo's been better in the first period of late. 3-0-2 in the last 5 games. The over-under in the first period, as you see there, has gone up and down. as alternated over the past 6 games. So, or actually, last 7 games, it's alternated. So we'll see if that trend continues. But Buffalo off that 0-0 game against Toronto at home, they got shut out 4-0. And obviously, Buffalo would like to end the season on a high note after losing to Philadelphia twice. The Red Wings and the Maple Leafs, a couple original 6 teams meeting in Toronto tonight. Again, Toronto's already wrapped up the Atlantic, so they have nothing to play for. Let's look at Detroit. And they've actually played well in the first period to close out the season. 6-1-2 in the last 9 games in the first period. They just beat New Jersey on the road last night. Now, we'll see who Toronto plays or doesn't play tonight if some of their big guns sit out. But the Maple Leafs, though, on an 8-1 underrun the last 9 games in the first period. And you see they've won 8 of their last 9 overall, so they're playing very well. And also, they haven't allowed a goal in the first period in 3 consecutive games. Also, they haven't allowed a goal in the first period in 3 straight home games. So a couple things to keep mind of, but also, again, we'll see if Austin Matthews plays. We'll see if some of the other stars play for Toronto or they sit them out before the playoffs begin. The final game tonight, the only Western Conference game, this was the makeup game from the fires out in L.A. a few months ago, back in January. L.A. and Calgary meet, and the first off with the first few meetings, scoreless November 11th in Calgary, and then January 11th in Calgary, it was a 1-0 LA lead after 1. So a couple of low-scoring first periods between these two teams. And you see the Kings, what they've done in the first period has just been amazing of late. They've trailed only once, and that is dating back to March the 3rd. So it's been a little bit of time that the Kings have not trailed after the first period, except for that Seattle game back on April 7th. And that was a game they were up 1-0 early. Seattle scored 2 late goals in the first to take the lead, 2-1. But still, 3 straight overs for LA because they just keep scoring a lot of goals in the first period. Now, taking a look at the Calgary Flames, they were in playoff contention until the last few days of the season, but they lost to Vegas on Tuesday, or they beat Vegas on Tuesday. But Minnesota and St. Louis both won, so they pretty much were knocked out there, and they were done with their season. But still, the Flames, though, who were on an incredible underrun in the first period, if you look back since March 25th, they only had 1 over during that stretch, during that 10-game stretch, but now back-to-back overs the last 2 games against San Jose and Vegas. So we'll see here if it's a little more loosey-goosey. LA's going to play Edmonton in the first round, and Calgary's out. So we'll see if we have an opposite of the first 2 meetings between Calgary and LA as far as the low-scoring first periods, if we get actually a higher-scoring first period coming up tonight. All right, let's take a look now at our 2 best bets for this evening. We split them on Tuesday. We lost with New Jersey minus a half goal against Boston. They were tied after the first period. We won with the Capitals. Islanders under. So let's go with our first play. And the Penguins take on the Capitals in Pittsburgh. And Washington, they've kind of wheezed their way to the finish. This is what happens when you get off to great starts and then you really don't have a lot to play for because you've wrapped everything up. Washington did beat the Islanders on Tuesday, but before that, they had gone 6 straight games not leading after the first period, and they went on an incredible overrun. We faded that, and it worked out. But, I mean, you see all those overs, but also Washington's given up a lot of goals in the first period during that stretch. Here's another reason why I like Pittsburgh. Go back to this game, February 22nd in Pittsburgh after the Four Nations break. Washington just pummeled Pittsburgh 8-3. And I'm sure the Penguins did not forget about that game. Going back to the Penguins now, and they're off this 4-1 loss to Boston on Sunday, but they had been pretty good at home in the first period prior to that, as they went 7 straight games, actually 8 straight games, 8 in a row without trailing in the first period at home before that Boston game. So they've been really good there. I think there's Pittsburgh wants to end on a good note. Washington, really, it means nothing for them. They just want to be healthy going to the playoffs. We'll see if Ovechkin even plays tonight, just because they have everything all settled. So there's really no reason to play him if you don't have to. Now, the second game we will look at, the total, we're going to go to the Hurricanes and the Senators under. A couple reasons why. Carolina sat a lot of guys out last night in their game against Montreal because they very wrapped up the two. They'll play New Jersey in the first round. And they end up losing that game 4-2 to the Canadiens. Now, here's a number. I'll make sure I get this. I think it's 8-3 to the under with no rest this year. Carolina in the first period. So when they play in the first period, usually low-scoring games. In fact, when you look back at it, against Toronto, against Boston, I want to go over, but Toronto, Boston, Anaheim. So I'm looking at the black that says no rest. The last three, they haven't scored a goal with no rest, Carolina. So I think this is just a get-through game tonight. And for Ottawa, they've already wrapped up their spot in the playoffs. They're in. They're playing Toronto in the first round. They're off this 2-1 where they trailed Chicago after the first period. They lost that game in overtime 4-3. I can't imagine you'll have as high scoring of a game this time early on. And yes, we have seen a lot of high scoring games with Ottawa of late. You look back even to February or March 27th, where Ottawa scored at least 2 goals in the first period 5 times. And I don't think that's going to continue again. Also, Ottawa and Carolina, they played 2 low-scoring first periods earlier this season. They played way earlier in the season. Ottawa did win at Carolina 3-0 on December 13th, 0-0 after 1, and they trailed 1-0 at Carolina, lost 4-0 in the game, but trailed 1-0 after 1 on November 16th. So a couple low-scoring first periods. I think that trend is going to keep up. So let's take the under in the first period between the Hurricanes and the Senators. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Proline TV. And we appreciate you the last few months here tuning into this video with the NHL first periods. And although the regular season is coming to an end and things change in the playoffs, we're playing the same teams all the time, same rest, you can still find advantages there. But hopefully you have found maybe some angles moving forward, even into next season, and how you can attack the NHL first periods, because I still believe in the regular season. There are so many ways that you can beat it, just with scheduling spots, with going against certain trends. I think that you can actually profit off of this, but hopefully you learn a thing or two off of these videos. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel at Proline TV here on YouTube. And also you can find our NHL playoff preview as well. It'll be up for this weekend going into the opening round of the playoffs. So again, I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.